One of the most famous names in Greek mythology is Hercules. Hercules was born a demigod. His father was Zeus, and his mother was the mortal princess Alcmene. Zeus was married to Hera, the goddess of women. When he fathered Hercules to Alcmene, Zeus' infidelity would enrage Hera, which would ultimately lead Hercules to kill his wife and children. So, there was this place called Nemea, which was being troubled by a giant lion that couldn't be pierced by sword or spear. Eurystheus orders Heracles to go and kill this monster. Heracles goes to Nemea, finds the lion, and strangles it to death. After he kills the lion, Heracles skins it and wears its hide as cape. That turns out to be Heracles' signature look. He wears his trusty lion skin cape for the rest of his life. Eurystheus orders Heracles to go kill the Hydra. This monster was a huge venomous snake with 100 heads. The Hydra was particularly hard to kill because when you cut off one head, two more sprouted in its place. Heracles defeats this nasty creature with the help of his nephew Iolaus, who was also Heracles' Eromenos or boy lover. When Heracles slices off one of the Hydra's heads, Iolaus cauterizes the stab with a flaming torch, which keeps the head from the growing back. After the Hydra was dead and totally headless, Heracles dipped his arrows in its venom, making them deadly poisonous. Many years later, the venom of these poisonous arrows actually ends up killing Heracles. Next, Eurystheus orders Heracles to capture a giant boar and bring it back alive. This is actually a lot harder than killing it, because after Heracles captures the vicious things, he's got to carry it all the way back to Argos. Of course, Heracles totally pulls it off and shows up carrying the boar over his shoulders. It's said that Eurystheus was so scared when he saw the boar that he ran and hid it in a big jar. Now the wimpy king orders Heracles to capture an incredibly fast deer with golden horns. Some say that Heracles snared the deer with the nets. Others say he pounced on it while it was asleep. And still others say that he just ran behind it until I got too tired to run anymore. No matter who you talk to, though, everybody agrees that Heracles cuffed the hind and brought it back to Eurystheus. Okay, so this labor is totally gross. Heracles has to go to the stables of a dude named Eugeus, who apparently had more oxen than anybody else in the world, but had also never bothered to clean up after them. The Eugean stables are filled with massive amounts of dung, and guess who has to clean it up? Heracles managed to pull this off by diverting the course of the Alpeios River, which washes through the stables and take away all the poo. Heracles is ordered to go to the Stempalian lake and raid it off a flock of man-eating birds. Some say that he does this by making bones rattle, which he shakes and shakes until they're scared away. Others say that just shoots them all with his Hydra poison arrows. Next, Heracles has to travel to the island of Crete and captures the divine Baal, who is said to be the father of Minotaur, the monster that the hero of Theseus later defeats. He managed this with the help of King Minos of Crete and travels back to Greece on the back of the ball as it swims across the Mediterranean. Next, Heracles is sent to capture the horses of King Diomedes. Capturing horses, that doesn't seem too hard. What if those horses just happen to be man-eaters? That's right, King Diomedes is in the habit of feeding his horses the flesh of people that get on his nerves. When Heracles shows up, though he turns the tables and feeds Diomedes to his own horses. After that, the vicious horses chill out a bit, and Heracles takes them away. On the agenda is obtaining the belt of Hippolyte, the queen of the Amazons. The Amazons were a tribe of warrior women who only dealt with men when they felt like having babies. They either killed or got rid of any male children that came along and only raised the females. Heracles goes to their queen and asks her nicely for her belt. Amazingly, she agrees. However, Hera decides that his wand was way too easy for Heracles, and she appears in the form of an Amazon and rallies the warrior women against Heracles. Heracles thinks Hippolyte has betrayed him, and after kicking a lot of Amazon butt, he kills her before sailing away with her belt. Heracles has to sail all the way to an island called Erythea, which is way out in what we now call the Atlantic Ocean. To the ancient Greeks, this was the end of the world. On the island of Erythea, there is a giant named Geryon, who has the 3 bodies and 3 sets of legs, all connected at the waist. It's Heracles' job to feed Geryon's beautiful herd of cattle, which are colored red by the sunset. To get the job done, Heracles borrows a giant golden cup from the son of Helios and sails across the Mediterranean to the island of Erythea. Before he can take the cattle, Heracles has to kill the giant Erytheon and his 2-headed dog who guards them. After that, Geryon himself comes to fight him, but Heracles takes out the 3-bodied giant with some massive whacks of his trusty club. Then Heracles herds the cattle into his golden cup boat and sails back to Greece. Eurystheus had originally given Hercules 10 labors to complete, but as 2 of them were disqualified by Eurystheus, he gave Hercules 2 more labors to complete. In this labor, Hercules was to steal apples from the garden of Hesperides. Hercules traveled the world in search for the apples and, at the advice of Prometheus, was told to ask Atlas to steal the apples. Hercules held up the heavens and earth while Atlas stole the apples. Atlas requested to take the apples to Eurystheus, and Hercules agreed, to which he asked Atlas to hold the heavens and earth while he adjusted his garments. When Atlas took the heavens and earth back onto his shoulders, Hercules left and returned to Eurystheus to deliver the golden apples. Final task was to capture the beast, Cerberus. Cerberus was a 3-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld to keep the living world from entering. Knowing that he could not enter the underworld through this entrance, Hercules traveled through a deep cave to enter the underworld. Hercules battled many beasts and monsters throughout the underworld until he reached Hades. Hercules asked Hades if he could take the Cerberus to surface. Hades agreed only if Hercules could restrain the beast with his bare hands and no weapons. Hercules was able to subdue the Cerberus and take him to Eurystheus, who demanded to return the Cerberus to the underworld. The details of Hercules' life are strongly focused around the gods. Samson had many instances in his story that could have just been exaggerated truths, but Hercules' story contains more mythology. Hercules' 12 labors often involve mythical creatures, like the 9-headed Hydra or the 3-headed, 6-legged monster Geryon. The gods were constantly interfering in Hercules' life, from Hera's continuous attempts to kill him to Athena's assistance in scaring off carnivorous birds. These elements of Hercules' story make it hard to accept as true or to uncover aspects that may have once been true. It is possible that Hercules was loosely based off an historical figure, though history must have been distractedly altered over time. All in all, Samson's story is more believable because there are many parts of his life that could have happened, though some on a smaller scale. In contrast, the majority of events in Hercules' life are impossible and centered around mythical beings or occurrences.